Alistair MacGregor is the man responsible for that motion. He is the NDP Member of Parliament for the riding of Cowichan, Malahat, Langford in British Columbia. And as you can see, he joins us right now. Mr. MacGregor, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon to you.
So I guess congratulations are in order. A unanimous consent of the House. Were you expecting that?
I was not, and it was a huge surprise, a very welcome surprise. This is the first Opposition Day motion that's ever stood in my name, and it was really nice to see that all political parties in the House today recognized how important this issue is. I'm sure they've been getting a lot of phone calls and emails from their constituents, and I think it really helps fortify our message, demonstrating to our constituents that we're taking this issue seriously, and that the corporate sector really needs to up its game and respond with effective measures.
So what do you exactly want to happen here? Because you're talking about the cost of groceries right now, of course, much higher at this point than it was a year ago to this date. So what exactly are you looking to happen here?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at the tail end of the motion, it's really asking the House of Commons to support the motion that was passed at the Standing Committee on Agriculture and Agri-Food. Again, another motion in my name that was passed unanimously. And I think it's really just trying to identify the fact that, if you look at the cost of food in the sector, the fact that so many Canadians are struggling week in, week out in making those choices when they go shopping. And then when you compare that with the profits that we're seeing among the grocery chains, but also like with other things, because last year we learned that Canada's biggest corporations got away with paying $30 billion less in tax than they should have. So I think there's a fairness issue at play here. And again, I think it's just a demonstration that politicians are listening to their constituents, that we take this issue seriously. It's a non-binding motion, but it puts the spotlight and it puts political and public pressure on the government and the corporate sector to follow through. Okay, to follow through, but we did hear today, for example, from the chairman of Loblaw, and he talked about the costs and acknowledged that Canadians are paying more right now for groceries. But he also said that this is very much a reflection of supply chains, that suppliers are having to pay for things like more expensive gas, the cost of production, and that's why things are more expensive now in the grocery store. As this gets underway, don't you already have the answers? Is this anything more really than political spectacle? No, I disagree with that. And now I will agree with him that supply chain issues are there for all to see. We know that there have been an increase in fuel prices, the cost of labor has gone up, and even just the unavailability of filling positions in various processing and producer-oriented industries. But if you look at the profits that the grocery chains, especially the biggest three, have made during this time, and you compare that with the fact that many food items are rising above and beyond the general inflationary trend that we see in Canada, there's a mismatch here. And I think it does call for a parliamentary inquiry. That's why I think all colleagues, not only on the committee, but in the House of Commons, agreed with what we're pushing forward. They see some truth in the matter. They see a need to investigate this, to really demonstrate that we are doing our due diligence and investigating. So I think there's more than meets the eye here. And I think it's time that we brought representatives of the big grocery chains before a committee to explain themselves on the public record. Okay. I think, though, on the flip side of it, we certainly know the pain of when Canadian corporations fail and don't do well. Here we have cases where Canadian corporations are doing well. They're, in fact, making a profit. And as a result, they are employing people. Is it wrong to be successful? Doesn't this almost put a punishment on grocery store chains for being successful in a time when really companies are struggling? Well, I measure success in how their employees are treated and paid. And you may recall that, during the pandemic, the grocery chains came out with a hero's pay, right? They topped up their workers' wages to recognize the extreme hardship that they were going through. Now, in what I think is a callous move, they took that away from workers. And these are the men and women who are really the face of the organization. I think a company's value comes from its employees. So if you truly want to demonstrate a company's value, I think you really need to step up to the plate and pay your employees what they're worth and make sure that their workplace conditions are adequate and safe. And I think that there are questions in that respect as well. If you look at the wording of my motion at the Agriculture Committee, we're not only going to be asking the CEOs to come before our committee, but we also want representatives of labor unions for the workers that are in those industries. We also want economists who specialize in the grocery and supply chains. And also we want to hear from producers and processors who have their own quarrel with grocery chains, which is why there has been so much conversation on a grocer's code of conduct, which is really targeting the unfair business practices that many of them have been practicing vis-a-vis producers and processors.
I have about 30 seconds here, Mr. MacGregor. Where does it go from here? What type of timeline are you looking at?
Well, at the Agriculture Committee, I think it's a huge win to have the House affirm its support for this unanimously. It definitely puts the pressure on the grocery sector to step up to the plate. But going forward, in the weeks ahead, we will be starting our investigation into this as soon as we've cleaned up our study into Bill C-234. And I'm very much looking forward to that investigation getting underway.
Alistair MacGregor, thank you for being here, and congratulations on your motion getting unanimous consent.
Very much appreciate it, Michael. Thanks for your interest.